You. It is a Monday, and we need to tape some news for today's show. So I'm going to do a quick update on some frauds. Y'all love the frauds when I cover fraud, since I can kind of smell a fraud. I'm good at smelling fraud. I know when people are full of shit. If there's one thing I know, I can read people. I know when they're lying to me. So we got a little fraud update today. Patrick, Nody, Baldy, Nody, Will, Gordon, Alex, George, Barber, Raccoon Bar, Levin member, ENIAC 78, Sparkchild, Michael, Quinranta, Serge Dog, Alex, Nika, Jay, Sunny, so many great Nodies here. Let's get to work. We got a lot of news. We're trying to all get smarter. And that's what this is about. So let's get smarter. I got our first news story. My quick time is at 40. You ready to go? 3, 2. Okay, we've got a fraud update. It's on Nikola. Trevor Milton's trial is scheduled to start in April, and the company is expecting a $125 million fine, as their market cap is now under $5 billion. So those two things are not related, and the way it's written is that they're related. So let me just try that again. They're not expecting the 25. Who wrote the headline?
That was me.
So they're not expecting a $125 million fine because their market cap is under $25 million. So if you say as their market cap is now $25 million, kind of, if you read that out loud.
As their market cap dipped under $5 billion?
You could say that. Or you would just do, I wouldn't even do that. I would just do an M dash or a separate line item. And our market cap has crashed from a peak of over 40 billion plus. They were over 40 billion at the peak, right?
Mid 30s, 34 billion is what they peaked at.
Great. 3, 2. Okay, we've got a Nikola fraud update. The electric car maker is expecting a $125 million fine, and Trevor Milton, their former disgraced CEO, is scheduled to start his trial in April. Their market cap has crashed massively from $34 billion to now under $5 billion. To catch you up on what's happened since he was on the podcast, Milton was indicted on 3 counts of fraud in July by the Department of Justice. Each count carries a maximum jail sentence of between 20 and 25 years. According to Reuters, that's a total of up to 75 years in prison if they were served sequentially. I'm not sure about the law if those would be served concurrently or sequentially. But let's just break down the crazy year and a half that Nikola had to refresh everybody in the audience. They SPAC'd on June 3rd, and they started trading as NKLA. You can search for NKLA in Google and get their stock history, or in your iPhone app. And if you look at that history, it is dismal. Here's a chart for those of you watching the YouTube video at youtube.com/thisweekin. And it has been a massive fall from grace. In late June, Nikola peaked at $34 billion as a market cap. They were trading at about $70 a share. Now they're trading at $11 a share, and they're worth $4.5 billion approximately. I think with no product and no revenue, this is a $450 million company maximum. I don't know what their cash position is, but I would give them like $1 million above their cash position, because they're going to be embattled in lawsuits. They might even be better off just giving everybody their cash back right now. We had Trevor
Jason,
Milton.
cash position is about 586 million.
Now their cash, so they're worth 4.5 billion right now. The cash position's around 500 million. I would give them a valuation of $1 million above their $500 million cash position, because they're going to burn through $100 million on legal fees. No doubt. It's going to be a complete disaster. This company will probably be a zero, be taken private, and or just be delisted. That's my best prediction. And I'm pretty good at these things. So we had Trevor Milton on episode 1090 back in July of 2020. You all remember that episode. If you haven't seen it, it is, if I dare say, a virtuoso performance by me as an interviewer, because I kind of got the sense that this kid was full of shit, and I just let him talk. And some people are like, you're being too easy on him. I made a strategic decision that me confronting him would not be as effective as letting him talk, because the more he talked, the wilder it got. And it got pretty wild. I had heard somebody as an interviewer say, a famous interviewer at some point said, just ask a very basic question and let the person talk is probably the best interview technique that always stuck with me. At the time, Nikola was trading at $30 a share. They had about a $13 billion market cap. Milton, if you remember, was ousted in September of 2020 after activist short seller Hindenburg Research, they name these things wonderfully, published a report alleging that Nikola's contracts and progress were greatly exaggerated. And it turns out that was true. We covered this on episode 11-12 in September of 2020 after the Hindenburg report was released. Now, in July of 2020, Milton was indicted by a federal grand jury on 3 counts of fraud. You can see episode 1256 for that one. Quote from a U.S. attorney that worked on the case via the Department of Justice press release, and I'm quoting here. As alleged, Trevor Milton brazenly and repeatedly used social media and appearances and interviews on television, podcasts, and in print to make false and misleading claims about the status of Nikola's trucks and technology. They definitely watched our podcast. I would
Shout
be
out
very
J-Cal.
surprised if shout out to J-Cal from the Department of Justice. The one time I'll take a shout out from the Department of Justice and be really thrilled about it. They definitely watched our podcast. And again, Trevor Milton's trial is scheduled to start on April 4th, 2022 in New York. Please let that one be televised. And I guess if it's a federal one, my understanding is federal trials are not televised, and then it's up to the local jurisdictions if they will be televised. That's why Theranos is not televised. According to a FreightWaves article, Milton requested the trial be moved from New York to Arizona. A federal judge denied this request because Milton bought and sold shares on the New York-based NASDAQ. Makes sense. His defense, as per FreightWaves, the FreightWaves.com article, quote, Milton claimed he should not have been charged in New York for securities fraud and wire fraud because his alleged illegal behavior occurred in Arizona, where Nikola is headquartered, or Utah, where he lives. I guess he wanted the home court advantage, and he is not going to get it. On July 29th, Milton surrendered to authorities, pled not guilty to the charges, and was freed on $100 million in bail. It's quite a bail payment. Interestingly, he used 2 properties in Utah as collateral for bail. According to CNBC, he bought a 2,000-acre riverside estate in Utah for $32.5 million in November of 2019. Pretty good-looking house. I might put a bid in on this when it goes to when this goes to auction. I could put $20 million on that one, and I could have all the Noti gang come over, and we'll have a big party for This Week in Startups at that 2,000-acre estate. That's pretty good. This was after he sold secondary shares during a $250 million raise that valued Nikola at $3.2 billion in September of 2019. So you can check out Milton's estate. According to the LA Times, it's the most expensive residential purchase in Utah history, which is surprising because I think $32 million is the average apartment in Manhattan right now, and the average starter home in LA. He's also facing civil securities fraud charges from the SEC. Milton sold another $70 million worth of stock in the PIPE. That's the private investment in a public entity. When you do a SPAC, you can also put together a PIPE, letting private investors invest in that public entity. And I asked him about this on episode 1090. You can check out his answer in this 2-minute and 30-second clip from our interview. I'll play the whole thing so you can hear it. The SPAC puts the money in. You have a PIPE, a private investment in a public entity that occurs at the same time. But then you sell $70 million in shares at that same time. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah.
So how do you, I mean, that's something people were really critical of. Like, why, if you're so long the vision, would you take $70 million off the table before the product's even launched? That was a red flag of red flags for me and for others.
Yeah, there's a lot of people have asked me that and criticized me. And here's the real answer to it. When we were going through this, the PIPE put in all their money at $10, at the $10 share price, essentially, which is the pre-IPO price for everybody. The SPAC put in the thing at $10 as well, and the PIPE, these big funds like Fidelity, PSAM, all these different groups that are in here, BlackRock, all these other groups. They came in, they said, "Look, you got too much control, way too much. You own the board, what
was your ownership at that point, percentage-wise, ballpark?
Well, I gave up a lot. So I had 70% of the company, and I gave about 30 to my employees. I wanted them to all become rich. And so I wanted them all become, I don't want all the money myself. I want to share it with people that
so you created a 30% employee stock option pool and
well, I gave away probably about 15% directly, and then the other 15% through the option. So it was over 30% of my stock was diluted. It was taken off 30% of the top to those guys. and I still had 40% of the company.
Yeah.
And I'll make, hundreds of people wealthy in their generations to come after it. And that's what I like in life. But the answer to why the stock was sold is they came to me and they said, look, we don't want you to be the CEO and the executive chairman. You got to choose one or the other. And I asked them why. I said, what's your reason? And they said, well, it's not healthy to have one voice everywhere to control everything. And I said, I can see that. That's actually some wisdom in that. And they said, we want you to be locked up longer. We want you to be here for a long period of time. We want you to take $1 salary, and also the whole executive team. This is what no one ever reported on. All they did is report on the bad, right? Because it gets headlines. So the entire executive team came in and said, okay, we're going to take $1 salary. And we get stock bonuses. That's it. And they said, Trevor, we want you to reduce down some of that control. And they said, we'll buy some of those shares from you so you can live on this. So you're not focused on money during the time that you are running this company. We want you to have some money out now. It's smart. And we want you to focus on Nikola, not focus on how you're going to pay your bills or pay for your house or whatever else.
All right. I'm getting a lot of Grant Cardone vibes from that guy, or like Billy McFarland. Just great pulls from my Noti chat room now telling me who does that guy remind you of when he talks? My God, it seems like he is, he just seems like he is working you in the interview. And
Jason, I think one thing that you should point out here is this company did not have a product. They had no revenue, and they built out a giant podcasting studio for him to go on 1 million appearances every day.
It's incredible. 3, 2. All right. Remember Jason's rule. If a company is ever valued at over $1 billion before they have a product in market, it's likely a fraud. And I use the word likely there because it's not always. Theranos, Magic Leap. We don't know about Magic Leap. We'll see. Nikola. Just so many companies, when they get valued, it's either a fraud or it's going to be a failure. What was the famous video site that raised $2 billion and was worth a bunch of money? Quibi. So Quibi would fall into that. Let's just pause for a second. If Nikola does get a $125 million civil penalty and they're burning a bunch of money and they have $586 million in cash as of September 30th, they're going to run out of money right quick. Quote from their new CEO, Mark Russell: we're looking forward to bringing this chapter to a close with this potential settlement and to focusing with renewed determination on building the future. Good luck with that. I think they're going to run out of money. That's the most likely scenario. And who would pour money into this train wreck? The stock is going to crash, is my best guess, from $11 to $1 in the next year. I don't think you'll be able to short it, because who on earth would take the other side of that trade? But maybe you could. I don't like to short things in a crazy market like this. They did manage to extend their runway by pulling together 2 common stock equity line purchase agreements. These agreements total $600 million and let Nikola sell equity to Tumium Stone Capital. I've never heard of them. They've already used $47 million from that one. If they sell those shares and dilute the current equity holders, Nikola management forecast closing the year with $831 million cash. Penalty will be paid out over time, I guess, maybe not all up front, but they're not going to be making revenue anytime soon. So I get the sense that this company is toast. They started trial production of battery electric vehicle trucks, BEV, in the second quarter of 2021 at their partner Iveco in Germany. They've completed 8 Tree BEV Gamma trucks, what a terrible name, and have started pre-series truck production in October of 2021, whatever that means, pre-series truck production. When they start using these kind of weird terms as opposed to started production or they're in pre-production, something's up. And just on branding, the Tree, T-R-E, BEV, Gamma trucks is a terrible brand. Just say Gamma. They started production on the Gamma. That's how you were branded. One word, Cybertruck. One word, Rivian. Don't give things 4 names. Ugh, such terrible, 3 or 4 names. I expect, they do expect their trial of fuel cell trucks by the end of 2021. Those are the ones that would do hydrogen refueling. I don't think they're going to get any of this done, I'll be honest. I think this is going to be a wash.
And all their orders are still cancelable.
And just as a note, when you read about these orders, I would put 0 value on any of these orders unless they've been paid in full or 50%, because they can be canceled. So, if people say they have 100,000 orders from Amazon, like one EV company is saying, I don't think that matters. I would say if they paid for 1,000 for 25% of them, then you could just take the total number, 25% deposit, divide by 1,000. They have 250 orders. That's how I would think about it. So even with Tesla, if they have 1 million orders, pre-orders for Cybertruck of $500 each, okay, they have 500 million in cash pre-orders. That's incredible, of course, and 1 million's incredible, but they could be canceled. And I would think in Tesla's case, 10% do get canceled because they have such amazing products. But in this crazy stuff where people have never produced a car, my Lord, stop putting companies that haven't produced their product at sky high valuations. It's a recipe for disaster. For those of you watching on YouTube, here is a progress picture from October 30th. They have 50,000 square feet left to build for their plant. Here's the picture, folks. Not too inspiring when you put it against like the Gigafactory or a Tesla factory, which I think this would be the reception area at a Gigafactory. I think this would be like the snack room at one of those giant Tesla factories. What a disaster. So great to have him on the podcast. It's such a great historic document for us. I don't think they're going to get anything done. How do you avoid founders like this? Well, it's very simple. You follow the rules of Silicon Valley. We have a milestone-based investing program here in Silicon Valley in the tech industry for a reason. You work for a year or two, you get some funding. You work for another 18 months, you get some funding. You don't say to a person, hey, you have an idea, we're going to take you public and give you $1 billion in cash or $17 billion in cash, whatever it is for a company that has yet to produce the goods. Let's stick to what's worked up until this point in time, which is milestone-based funding. There's no reason to give people a decade or 2 decades of funding in advance. It's a recipe for fraud. It's a recipe for people who want to get rich quick to come in, raise all that money, and then walk away. And who gets left holding the bag? All the public gets left holding the bag. So very simple, everybody. Don't give people money until they've proven they can do the job, whether it's Adam Neumann, who was flooded with capital by Masayoshi-san, or it's Nikola, or even, Quibi or Magic Leap. People should get some product to market before they get these sky-high valuations is my best advice. All right, everybody. Let's go on to our next story. Okay, good. I think we have to go to our interview now. Notice I will...
we'll be back.
We haven't announced. Somebody just asked if we've announced when the Bestie conference will be. It'll be in the spring, probably April is my guess, and it'll be in Miami. I have to go to Miami. I think I'm going to go to Miami for Art Basel in December, and I will look at the top locations there. I'll go look at the Fiena space. I'll look at the space, the New World Symphony. I've been to the Jackie Gleason Theater, but I'll tour that. Am I ever going back to the studio? Unlikely at this point. Next book club, we're looking for a book. Go to This Week in Startup /Slack. Go to the books channel, put in some book suggestions, and we'll do another book one. All right, everybody, I'll see you in an hour or so. I'm going to do another news reading to get through this. I have an interview for the next 30, 45 minutes, and I'll see you after that. Bye-bye, Noties.